There's a lot of talk online about Portland, Oregon and the condition that it's in, specifically before 2020. But just how bad is the condition of Portland right now? You're gonna find a lot of different opinions. I wanna give you my opinion from somebody that's lived here my entire life. I've seen Portland go through a lot of different changes. I'm gonna show you some footage in this video as well. It's not all gonna be pretty, it's not all gonna be bad, but it all starts now. All right, the first thing I want to say is, like I mentioned, I've lived here my entire life. I have no intention of leaving here. So, if that gives you any indication about how I feel about the area. I do know quite a few people, though, that have left here. People that have left the city, some people that have left the state in recent years. And, they have their own reasons. I can't completely blame them. But Portland's an awesome place to live. I've loved living here. There's a lot of data to back that up too. It's not just totally subjective. But like I said, Portland isn't quite what it used to be. So let me dig into that a little bit. The first thing I want to address, there's two kind of competing narratives that I commonly see online that I don't necessarily think are completely accurate. So the first one, common thing that you see about Portland is that Portland is burning down. Portland looks like SHIT, Portland looks terrible. The city's in shambles, stuff like that. I see a lot of people talking just about how bad Portland is, and I can sympathize with those people too, because there are parts of Portland that are pretty bad, or at least that didn't really used to be bad, that are sort of bad now. As far as like crime and trash, just the overall appearance. But for the most part, a lot of those narratives are very exaggerated. If you have not been here before and you're just visiting the city, for the most part, I think you're probably going to find that it is a very lovely city. There are, like I mentioned, there are some places that have quite a bit of trash. You can definitely find it if you go looking for it, but probably just for your average visitor, you're probably going to feel like the city is not an SHIT hole. Now, the other narrative that I commonly see is people sort of downplaying the state of Portland, which that typically looks like going online and taking a picture of a place in Portland that doesn't have any trash, usually on a nice sunny day, and it will usually be accompanied with some sort of remark, like a sarcastic remark like, oh, Portland is totally burning down, Portland's terrible, don't come here. These people are sort of seemingly downplaying, in some cases seem like they're even denying some of the things that have happened in Portland and recently in the current state of Portland. So it's kind of the opposite perspective. Sort of strikes me a little bit as like a Stockholm syndrome, but I can also sort of sympathize with those people in that I think they're probably just replying to the first group in that they don't like bad things being said about their city, which I get that. I get it. I don't like bad things being said about Portland either. I don't like to hear bad things about Portland, but I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to downplay things. I'm going to give it to you exactly the way that I see it. And for those people, yes, the vast majority of Portland is beautiful, but we can't deny that there are some places that are definitely struggling right now and definitely need to be cleaned up. So we've got the people exaggerating, we've got the people downplaying. What's the truth? Well, like so many other things, the truth lies in the middle. Not as bad as some of those people say, and there's definitely some problems going on for all of those deniers out there. But let me dig into the details a little bit more. Let's talk about crime. Now, we do have a handful of videos specifically on crime. If you want to watch some of our videos that are just solely dedicated to that topic, mostly covering data, which is what you typically want to look at when we're talking about crime. You want to look at the numbers. But this is a topic that also feels very subjective. So I want to kind of get into maybe some anecdotes and just personal observations. But before I do, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new to this channel, living in Oregon, you want to see more videos about what it's like to live here, specifically videos that cover neighborhoods. That's what a lot of our videos are on, just touring neighborhoods, showing you what the area looks like. Make sure and subscribe to this channel. My name is Seth Marchant. I'm a licensed real estate broker in the state of Oregon. Helped a lot of people move here. If you're somebody that's thinking about moving here, if you have questions about moving here, I invite you to contact me. You can call, text, email. You can hit that QR code that you see on your screen if you're watching from TV. That'll take you to our website where you can get all of our contact information there. So the topic of crime, which of course can be a sensitive one. In fact, as a real estate broker, we're not even supposed to speak directly to people about crime. But as a large, broad audience, you here on YouTube, I can talk a little bit about crime. So why do I say that crime feels a little bit subjective? Well, anytime crime goes up, it feels like crime is high, regardless of where crime was at before. And there's no doubt, again, if you want to look at the numbers in one of our other videos, there's no doubt since 2020 that crime has gone up in Portland, Oregon. And even more importantly, violent crime. You know, that's the one that's going to bother people the most. Don't want to get murdered, don't want to get raped, assaulted, stuff like that. Those numbers have actually been up. Homicides set a new record since 2020 every year for the past few years. But there is reason to believe that the crime might be tapering off. Just this past month, we had a 30-day streak of no homicides compared to the previous month and compared to that same month and last year, where we had 10 homicides over that period. So there is some early data that indicates that crime might be slowing down a little bit. We do have a new interim police chief as of about a month ago. He spent about 29 years on the force. I understand he's well respected, and he has said that his top priority is crime. The second priority is dealing with the drug issue, specifically fentanyl. I guess he had a family member that he recently lost to fentanyl, so it's a little bit personal for him. One of the common questions that I see online is, did Portland defund the police? You can play semantics and word games as much as you want, but the reality is that Portland did take money from the Portland Police Bureau's budget in 2020 and reallocate that to other places. The Portland City Council also voted to reduce the head count for the Portland Police Bureau down to 882 officers. I think in 2019 it was somewhere around 1,000 officers. And then all the unrest that we had in 2020, there were a lot of police officers that quit around that time too. So head count is very low. There is right now, I believe it's called Initiative 882, to get back to that 882 number and beyond, and to be on par with other similar major metropolitan areas. They'd need about just over 1,100 police officers. So we're definitely short on police officers right now. You do hear it from the people, it's noticeable. You see it reflected in polling data as far as people saying that they don't feel safe at certain times or in certain places. You see people complaining about there not being enough police, police not responding in time because there's just not enough police to respond to every single call. So you do hear that from the people. And so the bad news is we don't have enough police right now, it seems like. The good news is, and I think this is the most important thing, is that the sentiment has changed. I don't hear anybody crying for or calling for defunding the police anymore. I'm sure some of those people are definitely still out there, but you don't hear it. I only hear people calling for more police, and it seems, for the most part, that our leaders are on board with supporting that. So the good news is it looks like crime is turning around. It looks like we're going to be able to solve some of that. I don't know that policing is going to solve all of our crime problems, but at least we're turning that around, and it definitely feels like we've had a shift as far as that goes. Now the next thing that dramatically impacts the condition of Portland that you hear about a lot, that it's kind of hard to talk about. Very sensitive subject, and I am by no means an expert on this subject of homelessness. I am able to observe things though. I have eyes and ears. I have my own experiences. I have experiences shared from other people that I know. I know people that have been homeless. And so I'm just going to share my personal experiences with you. Now, aside from me not being an expert, it seems like there's just not a whole lot of experts on this topic. If anything, if there's one thing that I feel confident about, it's that nobody really has a solution to this problem. I've heard some solutions. One thing that you do hear sometimes is that we can solve this problem purely by housing. And as a real estate broker, you know, I can appreciate that. I can appreciate that sentiment that if we just had enough housing, that would solve all the problems. And if you haven't heard that before, usually that comes along with the language unhoused. That's kind of the new progressive language, is to refer to people that are on the streets as unhoused. And I can appreciate, like I said, I can appreciate that sentiment, but I think it's a little bit problematic because there's people that say that the homelessness problem can be solved simply by having enough housing, that it's simply 100% a housing problem. In fact, I've heard a professor here at Portland State say that exact same thing on the news.
Yeah, and that just leads to the conclusion that there are different reasons for people being homeless. It's not just one thing. Lack of housing, of course, is the obvious, but there are reasons that tie into that, right?
Yeah, nope, it's actually just the lack of housing.
Just the lack of housing.
I know it's shocking. It shocks everyone.
And the reason why, to me, that's problematic, and I really kind of reject that, is because from my own personal experiences, I know people that have been homeless that just didn't quite fit into that box. They had a place to go, they had a roof over their head, they had a shelter that they could go to, but for whatever reason, usually they couldn't follow the rules, didn't have the capacity to follow the rules, or didn't want to follow the rules, usually had to do with something like mental health related. For whatever reason, they just weren't able to stay in that place. And so when people say that housing is going to solve all of the homeless problems, it neglects those people that don't fit neatly into that box. The people that need more resources, probably specifically mental health resources. Those people are going to get neglected if that's going to be our approach. So it's probably going to be a multifaceted problem that we're going to have to solve, and definitely not a problem that's going to be easy to solve. Well, the big thing that I would say, because this has always been a problem. It's not a new problem, but it's a different problem now. Before 2020, maybe closer to like 2015, something like that, the homeless people that you would see would typically be somebody that would be laying on the street, usually sleeping. Sometimes they might have a sleeping bag, a backpack, maybe a shopping cart. And they seemingly didn't want to be bothered, and usually would not bother you. Whereas now that's not so much the case anymore. I've had an office down here in downtown Portland, and there's been numerous times where I came to the office early in the morning before anybody else was down here, before there's a lot of people downtown, and had to wait in my vehicle because there was a presumably homeless person standing in front of my door, swinging like a metal rod or something like that, playing lightsabers, yelling at somebody that wasn't there. And I didn't want to deal with that, so I just sit in my car and wait till that person moves on before I go into my office. You just didn't see that a whole lot before 2020. And then we also had Mayor Ted Wheeler telling people, we're not going to tell people they can't camp wherever they want, so people did camp wherever they wanted. Now he has since walked that back and told people they can't camp wherever they want, and there has been a camping ban. You do still see some of the tents around, but not what you used to see. It used to be like tent city, furniture, barbecues, bikes, even kind of ironically you see some no trespassing signs or some private property signs now too. And the people you see around those communities tend to be a lot more active and are much more likely to confront you. So I think we all have sympathy, or at least I hope that we would all have sympathy for the people that don't have shelter, the people that are down and out, the people that are on the streets. I don't think any of us really mind people being on the streets, but when you get accosted, when you get attacked, when you got to deal with somebody swinging, some sort of object at you, then things change. Then the sentiment changes. Then the way people feel about things changes. Now, when I was driving around, some of this footage that I'll show you driving around, by the way, none of this footage was cherry-picked. I just took some quick footage of some popular places that people go, like Pioneer Place, Pioneer Square. I did see one person that was banging a garbage can with some sort of stick and yelling. But for the most part, it also feels like that situation has tapered off a little bit. It does feel like it's a lot more vibrant downtown, and the city is working towards creating more shelter and more places for the people that are homeless to go. When we had the lockdowns coming downtown at times, it was very empty down here except for those people. So it felt like at times it was just downtown was just totally occupied by homeless people and a lot of people that were appearing to have mental episodes. That doesn't feel like the case so much anymore. Downtown feels a lot more vibrant, feels like we've turned things around a little bit. So I have quite a bit of optimism when it comes to those two topics, crime and homelessness, and where is the city headed. So a few final thoughts. What gives me some pessimism? What worries me? Well, one thing that you don't really hear talked about, this might be talked about a little bit more behind closed doors in meetings. You just don't really hear it discussed in the news or so much publicly, but the economic situation. Like I mentioned before, a lot of people have moved out of this area. Those people have not been replaced. And there's also not nearly as many people that are coming from outside of the city to come downtown and patronize businesses. Going to Pioneer Place, shopping, going to Blazer Games, going to the convention center, enjoying all the amazing restaurants here. So what does that mean? It means less tax revenue. Less tax revenue means less resources to fix these problems. Less resources to fix these problems means that people are probably going to continue to not come downtown, and so the cycle continues. If I were one of the leaders of this city, I would be deathly afraid of this downward spiral and this cycle that we're in right now of not having as much tax revenue, not having as many resources to solve the problems, not being able to encourage people to come back downtown again. I don't really know how we're going to fix that problem, but like I said, it does feel like the downtown is a little bit more vibrant than it has been. I think it's just because Portland's a great city. Portland people love this city. And maybe now that crime is kind of tapering off, people are starting to feel a little bit safer. So what gives me optimism? Well, I think in general, the people of Portland are good, well-meaning people. They might be a little bit compulsive, they might be a little bit misguided, but I think in general, the people here really care about each other and care about the city. And I think that'll be reflected in conditions and how the city progresses forward. And like I've kind of been repetitive in saying this, I think that's been reflected lately in the city being a little bit more vibrant, a lot more people coming downtown. You're seeing a lot less of the stuff that you don't want to see when you do come downtown. So some final thoughts, for people that aren't from here, maybe you're thinking of moving here, maybe you're thinking of visiting here, and you're really not sure what to believe online, because I see that, I experience that as well when looking at other cities. For example, San Francisco. Followed a little bit about what people are saying about San Francisco. It's hard to know what's exaggerated and what's not, like the human feces that people say is everywhere, or the smash and grab crimes that people say happen constantly. It's hard to know how much of that is exaggerated, like that first narrative that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. So I just want to give you a sense, hopefully in this video, that Portland probably isn't as bad as you might read in some places online. If you're coming here or if you're moving here, you'll probably find in general that it's a lovely city. Driving around downtown around 2020, a lot of stuff was boarded up. You don't see so much, you don't see that so much anymore. Noticed a lot of security guards that you didn't used to see. A lot of security guards like at storefronts, like at the Apple store, for example, or the stores that are really busy. I noticed those meter maids, those people that give parking tickets, are still out in full force. I don't think they ever stopped. So, word of caution for you, if you come and you park in downtown Portland, not just the meter, but any vehicle infraction, like if you don't have like a front license plate, like I know some states people don't have front license plates, they're gonna get you, any vehicle infraction. So we definitely know the parking infractions are getting taken care of in Portland. And the other thing I would say for people moving here, the Portland metropolitan area is a tri-county area, Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County. May have seen me mention this in other videos, but for the most part, Clackamas County and Washington County, the two counties where downtown Portland or Portland proper is not, are very insulated from all this stuff. So I would imagine there's some people that live in these counties that don't watch the news, that don't pay attention to politics, that don't even know that we had all the riots and all the unrest that happened during 2020. I actually have a few friends that don't pay attention to politics at all. I don't know how they do it. As a real estate broker, I do have to keep an eye on the economy, and the economy bleeds into politics, so it's almost impossible to escape some of these things. But some of the happiest people I know do not pay attention to politics at all. So there's probably a lesson in there. But point being, there are places in the Portland metropolitan area that don't experience any of these negative things, like the crime and the homelessness. So if you totally want to avoid that and be just completely insulated from that, and you're thinking about moving here, that is possible. All right, I hope that helped you get a little bit better sense for the current state and how things are in Portland. If you're thinking about moving here, if you have questions, again, I invite you to call, text, email. You can schedule a Zoom with us. You can find a link for that in the description. You can hit the QR code if you want to get to our website. And if you want to see more videos like this, we've got over 100 videos about what it's like to live in Oregon, specifically around Portland, on our channel. All sorts of different videos, so make sure and subscribe or check out our channel. Give me a like if this helped you. Feel free to leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Let me know what your experience is. Let me know if you've seen some of the stuff online that I'm talking about. And until next time, take care, everyone.